You wake up and the first thing you do is reach for comfort. The warm bed, the glowing screen, the familiar routine. You do everything you can to keep yourself away from discomfort. You delay the hard conversation. You skip the workout because your body feels sore. You bury your feelings because facing them would hurt. And little by little, day after day, you build a life designed around avoiding pain. But here is the truth no one told you: the very thing you are avoiding is the very thing that holds your power. You spend years avoiding pain, and therein lies the power. Most of us were raised to believe pain is the enemy. From childhood we were shielded. Don't touch that, you'll hurt yourself. Stay safe. Be careful. Slowly, the message sank in: pain is bad. Pain means danger. Pain means stop. But what if that belief was wrong? What if pain isn't the end, but the beginning? What if pain is not a wall, but a door? What if all the growth, all the strength, all the freedom you're searching for has been hiding on the other side of the very thing you keep running from? Think about it. Muscles don't grow without resistance. Diamonds aren't made without pressure. Courage doesn't exist without fear. Every transformation, every victory, every breakthrough in history came through pain. And yet most people live their entire lives trying to escape it. They build routines around avoiding it. They numb themselves with distraction, with entertainment, with substances, with busyness. They think they are living, but they are only running. Running from pain. Running from power. Running from themselves. Say the refrain with me: you spend years avoiding pain, and therein lies the power. The power you crave. The strength you need. The clarity you dream of. The life you want. It's all hidden inside the thing you keep trying to avoid. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is the compass pointing to where you must go. Pain is the signal saying, here. This is where you grow. This is where you break free. But because you avoid it, because you fear it, because you numb it, you stay small. You stay stuck. You stay in chains that you call comfort. Most people think comfort equals happiness. They believe if they just keep life soft, painless, easy, they will finally be fulfilled. But look around. Are they fulfilled? Are they alive? Or are they bored, restless, empty? Comfort doesn't satisfy the soul. Comfort suffocates it. Comfort lulls you into a slow death while convincing you that you're safe. And you don't notice until years have passed and you realize you've been living half asleep. That's the myth. That's the lie. That's why so many people feel lost even when they have everything they thought they wanted. They mistook comfort for purpose. They mistook avoiding pain for living life. Let me ask you, how much of your life has been shaped by avoiding pain? How many decisions have you made not because they were right, but because they were easy? How many dreams have you buried, not because they were impossible, but because they demanded more than you wanted to give? How many times have you stayed silent, not because you had nothing to say, but because you feared rejection? Every one of those choices was a retreat. Every one of those choices kept you smaller. And every one of those choices confirmed the truth: you spend years avoiding pain, and therein lies the power you never tapped into. Picture your life right now. The opportunities you've missed. The relationships you've let die. The projects you never finished. Trace them back. At the root of each one, you'll find a moment of pain you refused to face. Maybe it was the pain of discipline. Maybe it was the pain of failure. Maybe it was the pain of being alone. Maybe it was the pain of criticism. But every time you ran, every time you avoided it, you lost a piece of yourself. And if you keep running, you'll spend your whole life like that, scattered, fragmented, half alive. But here's the shift: pain doesn't destroy you. Avoidance does. Pain doesn't weaken you. Numbing does. Pain doesn't trap you. Fear does. When you face pain, you grow. When you avoid pain, you shrink. When you walk through pain, you become strong. When you run from pain, you stay weak. The difference between the person you are now and the person you want to become is measured by how much pain you're willing to face. Not once. Not twice. Every single day. And here's the paradox: the more you run from pain, the more it controls you. The more you avoid it, the more it shapes your life. Avoiding pain doesn't remove it, it multiplies it. The workout you skipped becomes the disease 10 years later. The truth you buried becomes the resentment poisoning your relationships. The dream you delayed becomes the regret that keeps you awake at night. Avoidance compounds. Pain compounds. And one day, it breaks you anyway. But if you choose to face it now, if you choose to walk through it today, you take its power back. You transform it. You turn pain into fuel. You turn wounds into wisdom. You turn suffering into strength. This is why the reframe matters. You spend years avoiding pain, and therein lies the power. Because what you avoid controls you. What you confront, you master. What you run from, you lose to. What you face, you overcome. That's the truth. That's the law. That's the difference between most people and the few who rise. Look closer at your life. Think about the moments when you felt most alive. Were they the easy moments? Were they the comfortable ones? Or were they the moments when you were pushed, when you were stretched, when you were tested? The graduation you fought for. The race you trained for. The heartbreak you survived. The risk you took. Those moments had pain written all over them, and yet, they shaped you. They carved out your strength. They etched resilience into your bones. They gave you stories you still tell today. Without pain, those moments wouldn't exist. Without pain, you wouldn't exist as you are now. So why do you keep running from the very thing that built you? Why do you keep praying for a painless life when every breakthrough you've ever had came through pain? Why do you keep avoiding the gem when you know the soreness is the price of strength? Why do you keep avoiding difficult conversations when you know honesty is the foundation of freedom? Why do you keep avoiding failure when you know it's the tuition you pay for wisdom? The truth is clear. The more you avoid pain, the weaker you become. The more you embrace it, the stronger you grow. Most people don't get this. Most people think life is about stacking up pleasures and minimizing discomfort. But that's not living, that's sedating. That's like putting yourself under anesthesia and calling it peace. You can't feel joy if you refuse to feel pain. You can't feel purpose if you refuse to feel pressure. You can't live fully if you refuse to struggle. Pain is not the opposite of life, it's the pulse of life. It tells you you're alive. It tells you you're moving. It tells you you're growing. Repeat it again. You spend years avoiding pain, and therein lies the power. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you bury your power. Every time you choose distraction over discipline, you bury your power. Every time you choose silence over truth, you bury your power. But every time you choose to face pain, Every time you walk into it instead of running from it, you reclaim your power. You expand your capacity. You move closer to the person you were meant to be. Let me show you what avoidance really costs. A man spends his whole life avoiding the pain of rejection. He never asks the question. He never starts the business. He never puts himself out there. And he tells himself he's being safe. But safe becomes stale. Stale becomes regret. Regret becomes bitterness. And by the end of his life, the pain he tried to avoid swallows him whole. Another person faces rejection head-on. They hear no 100 times. They get laughed at. They get dismissed. But each time they rise, each time they learn, each time they grow. And eventually, no turns into yes. Rejection turns into resilience. Failure turns into fuel. That's the difference. Avoidance breeds weakness. Facing pain breeds strength. You have to decide which story will be yours. Will you live small, running from pain, hiding from challenge, numbing your way through life? Or will you rise, embrace pain, and transform it into power? Will you choose the slow death of avoidance or the fierce life of courage? That is the crossroads. That is the decision. And the clock is ticking. Because here's the hardest truth, the pain you're avoiding right now is not going anywhere. The workout you didn't do today will wait for you tomorrow. The hard conversation you dodged will only grow heavier with silence. The dream you delayed will haunt you until you either chase it or bury it forever. Avoided pain doesn't disappear, it compounds. It multiplies. It sharpens its claws. And when it finally comes for you, it will hurt worse than it ever needed to. But pain faced now becomes power gained forever. So let me tell you what you already know deep inside. You cannot run forever. You cannot numb forever. You cannot hide forever. At some point, you must decide, will you keep avoiding pain, or will you finally face it and unlock the power waiting on the other side? The choice is yours. But your future depends on it. And this is why we begin here, with this refrain echoing louder and louder. You spend years avoiding pain, and therein lies the power. It is not in escaping pain that you grow, but in embracing it. It is not in avoiding struggle that you rise, but in walking through it. It is not in hiding from wounds that you heal, but in facing them. This is the truth. This is the foundation. And this is where your transformation begins. Most people live their whole lives like fugitives. They run, but they don't even know from what. They run from the gym because sweat stings. They run from ambition because failure looms. They run from honesty because rejection hurts. And in their running, they lose themselves. They spend years avoiding pain, and in doing so, they spend years avoiding power. Because pain is the gatekeeper. Pain is the teacher. Pain is the path. Most people think discipline is punishment. They call it harsh, cruel, unnecessary. They say, follow your feelings. Do what feels right. But feelings lie. Feelings betray. Feelings say, rest, when what you need is to rise. Feelings say, quit, when what you need is to endure. That person, the rare one, doesn't live by feelings. That person lives by discipline. They feel the pain of waking at 5 a.m. They feel the ache of sore muscles. They feel the sting of rejection letters. And they keep moving. Because they know every bit of pain carries a seed of transformation. Discipline is pain today for freedom tomorrow. Comfort is ease today for regret tomorrow. Which one will you choose? Mini story 1. A boy dreamed of being a runner. But every time he trained, his legs burned. His lungs screamed. His friends laughed. Why suffer? They asked. He almost quit. But then he realized the pain was the point. The pain was the proof he was growing. He leaned into it. He embraced it. Day after day. Year after year. The boy became a man, and the man became a champion. And when they called his name on the world stage, he whispered to himself, "The pain I once avoided became the power I now carry." Responsibility is another battlefield. Most people dodge it because it hurts. It hurts to admit you failed. It hurts to admit you chose comfort. It hurts to admit you wasted time. So they blame. They point fingers. They say, "It's my boss's fault. It's the economy's fault. It's my parents' fault." But blame is just another way of avoiding pain. That person, the one you could be, chooses responsibility. They feel the pain of owning their mistakes. They swallow pride. They stand in the fire of truth. And because they do, they grow. Responsibility hurts, but it also heals. It restores control. It says, "Yes, I failed. But because it's mine, I can change it." Avoidance robs you. Responsibility frees you. Mini story 2. A woman dreamed of writing. She drafted chapters in secret. But her husband mocked her. "No one will read that. You're wasting time." She stopped. For years, she buried her gift. The pain of mockery was too much. Until one day she realized the pain of silence was worse. She accepted responsibility. She admitted she had betrayed herself. That hurt deeper than any insult. And in that pain, she rose. She wrote again. She published. She built an audience. And years later, when strangers told her her words saved their lives, she realized the power was always hers. She just had to face the pain of responsibility to reclaim it. Fear versus courage. This is where most people break. Fear of failure. Fear of rejection. Fear of being alone. And because fear feels painful, they avoid it. They never risk. They never try. They never step forward. But that person, the one who rises, knows courage isn't painless. Courage is choosing to act while your hands shake. Courage is walking toward the thing that terrifies you most. Courage is swallowing the fire of fear and turning it into fuel. Pain is always there, but instead of avoiding it, they use it. Mini story 3. A student wanted to build a business. His friends laughed. His teacher warned him he'd fail. His parents begged him to stay safe. Fear suffocated him. But he asked himself one question: what hurts more, failing or never knowing? The answer was clear. He faced the fear. He failed once, twice, 10 times. Each failure burned. But each failure forged him. And when success finally came, it tasted sweeter because of the scars. He realized the truth: pain avoided keeps you small. Pain embraced makes you unstoppable. Consistency is another kind of pain. It's not the sharp sting of failure, it's the dull ache of repetition. Most people can endure pain once, maybe twice. But every day? Every week? For years, they break. They say, it's too hard. It's too boring. It's too much. That's why most people quit diets, quit gyms, quit dreams. The pain of consistency wears them down. But that person, the one who wins, chooses consistency anyway. They feel the grind. They feel the monotony. They feel the sacrifice. And they stay. And because they stay, they rise above the rest. Mini story 4. There was a young boxer. He hated training. The bruises. The cuts. The endless repetition. Every punch hurt. Every failure stung. He thought about quitting 100 times. But he stayed. He endured. And in the ring, when the lights were blinding and the crowd was roaring, he realized the secret. All those years of pain were not punishment, they were preparation. Every bruise was a lesson. Every scar was a certificate. Every drop of blood was an investment. The fight was won long before the bell rang. The fight was won in the pain he refused to avoid. Now think about long-term vision. Most people choose comfort now at the cost of pain later. They avoid short-term discomfort, but in doing so, they guarantee long-term regret. They eat the junk food. They skip the study. They dodge the challenge. And then one day, the bill arrives. The body breaks down. The career stalls. The dream dies. And regret is far heavier than pain ever was. That person, the one who becomes unstoppable, chooses the reverse. They accept pain now to avoid regret later. They say, I'll suffer today so I can live tomorrow. They say, I'll bleed now so I can breathe later. They know pain is temporary, but regret lasts forever. Mini story 5. A man dreamed of becoming a doctor. The years of study terrified him. The sleepless nights. The debt. The constant pressure. His friends avoided it. They wanted fun now. They mocked him for choosing suffering. But he chose pain over pleasure. He chose sacrifice over ease. And years later, when he stood in a hospital saving lives, he understood. The pain he embraced gave him power others would never know. The ones who avoided pain still avoided life. And here is where the shift happens, serving others. Pain isn't just about you. Pain is what connects you to others. When you've faced it, you understand. When you've endured it, you empathize. When you've conquered it, you can lead. Most people avoid pain, so they never build depth. Their words are shallow. Their influence is weak. But that person, the one who doesn't run, earns authority. Because they've walked through fire, others trust them to guide the way. Because they've known struggle, others believe in their strength. Pain is the price of impact. Avoidance is the guarantee of irrelevance. So contrast it all once more. Most people run. That person stays. Most people avoid. That person embraces. Most people chase comfort. That person chases growth. Most people bury their power. That person unlocks it. And the line between them is not talent, not luck, not destiny. It is simply this: how much pain are you willing to face? Because you spend years avoiding pain, and therein lies the power. Now ask yourself, which side will you be on? Will you keep running, hiding, numbing, shrinking? Or will you turn, face the thing you fear, and walk into the fire? Will you waste your life avoiding pain, or will you rise by embracing it? This is the decision. This is the hinge. This is the moment where destiny is decided. This is where everything comes together. You've seen the pattern. You've felt the truth pressing against your chest. You spend years avoiding pain, and therein lies the power. This is not just a phrase. This is not just a clever line. This is the key to unlocking your life. Because if you keep running, you keep shrinking. If you keep avoiding, you keep weakening. If you keep numbing, you keep dying alive. But if you face it, if you embrace it, if you walk through it, you rise. You become. You transform. Think about the times you stood at the edge of something great but stepped back because it hurt. The job you didn't take. The dream you didn't chase. The truth you didn't speak. All because pain whispered, "Not yet. Not today." And you obeyed. You surrendered. And every time you did, a little piece of you faded. That's what avoidance costs, not just missed opportunities, but missed identity. You're not just losing chances. You're losing yourself. But the reverse is also true. The moment you face pain, something ignites. The moment you choose courage over comfort, fire erupts in your soul. The moment you say, "I will not run anymore," you reclaim your life. This is not theory. This is law. Pain avoided multiplies. Pain embraced transforms. The choice is always yours. You think avoiding pain makes life easier. It doesn't. It makes life heavier. It builds change you can't see until it's too late. But when you choose pain, when you step into it willingly, something happens. You build muscle others don't have. You build clarity others can't see. You build resilience others can't imagine. And those who avoided pain will look at you in shock and say, "How did they do it?" And the answer will be simple: you did what they refused to do. You faced what they ran from. You chose what they avoided. Say it again: you spend years avoiding pain, and therein lies the power. Let it echo in your mind. Let it sear into your heart. Let it guide every decision from this moment on. Because if you forget this, you'll fall back into the trap. You'll start chasing comfort again. You'll start numbing again. And the cycle will repeat. But if you remember it, if you live it, if you breathe it, you'll break the cycle forever. Most people will hear this and do nothing. They'll nod. They'll agree. They'll say, "That's true." And tomorrow, they'll run back to comfort. But not you. Not this time. Not after hearing this. You are different. You are chosen. You are capable of facing what they cannot. You are ready to suffer for greatness, to endure for destiny, to walk through the fire for freedom. And that decision will separate you from the crowd forever. Mini Story 6. There was a soldier who trained harder than anyone else. While others slept, he ran. While others laughed, he sweated. While others quit, he stayed. They mocked him. They told him he was crazy. But when the battle came, when the bullets flew, when chaos erupted, he stood tall. Because the pain he had embraced became the shield that saved his life. Pain had forged him into steel. Avoidance had left others fragile. That is the law. That is the truth. That is your choice. So ask yourself right now, what pain have you been avoiding? The conversation? The discipline? the rejection, the failure? Name it. Face it. Walk into it. Don't wait. Don't delay. Don't hide. Because the longer you avoid it, the more it owns you. But the moment you face it, the moment you embrace it, the power is yours again. And when you do, when you finally stop running, when you finally embrace pain, you will see life differently. Challenges will no longer scare you. Struggles will no longer break you. Fear will no longer own you. Because you will know, pain is not the enemy. Pain is the path. Pain is the portal. Pain is the proof. So let this be the moment you decide. Not tomorrow. Not when it's easy. Not when you feel ready. Right now. Because comfort is calling you back even as you hear this. It whispers, stay safe. Stay small. Stay the same. But your soul is screaming louder, no. I was not born for chains. I was not born for avoidance. I was not born to hide. I was born to rise. And the only way to rise is to face the very thing you've been avoiding. The refrain must become your mantra. You spend years avoiding pain, and therein lies the power. Repeat it when you wake. Repeat it when you train. Repeat it when fear knocks at your door. Let it remind you that pain is not a threat, it's a guide. Pain is not a prison, it's a passage. Pain is not weakness, it's the birthplace of strength. Imagine yourself 1 year from now, having faced the pain you once avoided. Imagine your body transformed because you embraced the grind. Imagine your relationships healed because you faced the hard truths. Imagine your purpose alive because you endured rejection and kept going. That version of you is not a dream. That version of you is waiting. And the only thing standing in the way is your willingness to embrace pain today. Most people will never know this freedom. They'll choose the couch over the run. They'll choose the excuse over the action. They'll choose the numbness over the discipline. And they'll wonder why their lives feel empty. Don't be like most people. Be the rare one. Be the one who embraces pain. Be the one who faces fear. Be the one who carries scars and turns them into stories. That's who you were meant to be. Mini Story 7. A climber faced a mountain no one dared to touch. The winds cut. The ice burned. The falls bruised. He nearly gave up. But he pressed on. He embraced every blister, every ache, every freezing night. And when he reached the summit, when he stood above the clouds, he wept. Not because it was easy, but because it was hard. Not because it was painless, but because it was painful. And that pain made the victory priceless. His power was born in the suffering he embraced. Your life will be the same. The summit you dream of will demand pain. The freedom you crave will demand suffering. The greatness you desire will demand sacrifice. And that is not something to fear, that is something to welcome. Because every step through pain is a step toward power. Every scar is a mark of transformation. Every tear is proof that you refuse to quit. So here is the final call: stop avoiding. Stop running. Stop numbing. Face the pain. Embrace the pain. Transform the pain. Because you spend years avoiding pain, and therein lies the power. Let that be your anthem. Let that be your compass. Let that be your life. Say it with me one last time: I will no longer run. I will no longer hide. I will no longer avoid. I will face pain. I will embrace pain. I will transform pain. And in that choice, I will rise. Because pain is not the end. Pain is the beginning. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the ally. Pain is not the weakness. Pain is the weapon. And those who avoid it will always be powerless. But those who embrace it will always be unstoppable. This is your destiny. This is your calling. This is your life. Don't waste it avoiding pain. Use it. Rise with it. Live with it. Because all the power you've been searching for has been waiting for you inside the thing you feared most. And now you know the truth. You spend years avoiding pain, and therein lies the power.